Okay, we're going to go ahead and go over chapters 1 through 3 of Mice and Men since we have not been able to really talk about a whole lot of them, or a whole lot of the chapters anyway. So here's how this is going to kind of work. This recap, like it says on the screen, is designed to help you highlight important quotes within the novel. And so actually do that. If you have a highlighter, you should go grab one. Throughout, I'm going to be asking you some questions and then we will kind of go over them. You will have to provide responses for those questions as well. So starting with chapter 1, the first question I need you guys to answer is, what do we know about George in chapter 1? Well, it says on page 2 that he is small and quick, dark of face, with restless eyes and sharp, strong features. Every part of him is defined, with small, strong hands, slender arms, and a thin and a bony nose. So he is very, very sharp and defined in terms of physically and physical appearance. We also find out that he often has to take care of Lennie. That seems to be kind of his primary job as they travel together. On page 3, he reminds Lennie, hey, don't drink so much. You're going to be sick like you were last night. So that was when Lennie was gulping in the water, and George has to remind him that's probably not a safe idea. We also know that as he is Lennie's kind of caretaker, and that's a full-time job, he does get a little bit annoyed with Lennie's forgetfulness and childish nature. We see that on page 7 where he says a lot of kind of mean things. I could get along so easy and so nice if I didn't have you on my tail. I could live so easy and maybe even have a girl. And so these things seem a little bit mean, but at the same time, we know that George is dealing with Lennie and his some of his disabilities on a daily basis and for a long period of time, which can be really, really exhausting. Then later on page 11, he goes on, and again, it sounds very, very mean, but he says, what do I got? I got you. You can't keep a job and you lose me every job I get. Just keep me shoving all over the country all the time. And that ain't the worst. You get in trouble. You do bad things, and I got to get you out. So Lennie is somewhat of a burden to George, even though I think for the most part we would agree that George doesn't necessarily mind the burden. It just does become tiring after a while. So the next thing I want to ask you is, what do we know about Lennie at this point? Okay, so first, physically, we find on page 2 that he's a huge man. He's shapeless of face, with large pale eyes, wide sloping shoulders, and he walks heavily the way a bear drags his paws. Again, I maybe mentioned this earlier, but I get this image of the way that Baloo walks from the Jungle Book. We also know that he really, really wants to impress and please George. He looks up to him, and he often is looking to George for approval or for affirmation. We see it on page 3 where he makes the splashes in the pond, and he says, "Look, George, look what I done." And then we also remember when he thought he had lost his work card, he looked down at the ground in despair, which again shows us that when he thought he was going to disappoint George, he felt an internal sense of despair. And so, again, he really, really wants to please George and to make him happy. We also know that he likes to pet soft things, mostly because he just likes the way they feel. We talk about the mice and the rabbits, and then, of course, we find out later he touched the woman's dress because it was soft. The problem is when he gets scared, he tenses up and closes his fists. And again, that means bye-bye Mousy for the mouse that he's holding. It also led to some very interesting situations. One in particular was the reason they had to leave their last job in weed. Remember, George is describing it this way. He says, oh, you just wanted to feel that girl's dress. Just wanted to pet it like it was a mouse. Well, how the hell did she know you just wanted to feel her dress? She jerks back and you hold on like it was a mouse. She yells and we got to hide in an irrigation ditch all day with guys looking for us. So again, Lennie's simple desire of wanting to pet soft things can get him into trouble sometimes. We as an audience, and George certainly knows, that his intentions are innocent, but it can have negative consequences that can get them into trouble. Next one, how are George and Lennie different from other migrant workers? Okay, so I'm going to give you a really long quote here, but on pages 13 to 14, this is an important one. This is George distinguishing them from all the other ranch workers. He says, guys like us that work on ranches are the loneliest guys in the world. They got no family. They don't belong no place. They come to a ranch and work up a stake, and then they go into town and blow their stake, and the first thing you know, they're pounding their tail on some other ranch. They ain't got nothing to look ahead to. With us, it ain't like that. We got a future. We got somebody to talk to that gives a damn about us. We don't have to sit in no bar room blowing in our jack just because we got no place else to go. If them other guys gets in jail, they can rot for all anybody gives a damn, but not us. Because I got you to look after me, and you got me to look after you. This is a really important distinction between George and Lennie and the other ranch workers because they have each other. Lennie may be a burden to George sometimes, but he is company, and that's something that a lot of the other ranch workers do not have. Okay, so what is George and Lennie's shared dream? Again, kind of a longer quote that I'm going to share with you, but on pages 14 to 15, George describes their dream. He says, someday we're going to get the jack together and we're going to have a little house and a couple of acres and a cow and some pigs and live off the fat of the land. We'll have a big vegetable patch and a rabbit hutch and chickens. And when it rains in the winter, we'll just say the hell with going to work and we'll build up a fire in the stove and sit around it and listen to the rain coming down on the roof. Okay, this is an important dream. First of all, they're going to actually save their money, something that most ranch workers were not doing. Instead, they would, like it says, kind of blow their jack in the bar or wherever. But instead, they're gonna save their money, and they have a dream, something to work towards buying. And this dream is really significant because to them it represents a sense of independence, and it also represents a sense of pride and security as well. In security, they will have a place that they can call their own forever. And so in terms of a retirement plan, this is really ideal. Additionally, when it comes to having a sense of pride, they get to actually benefit from the work that they're doing, which is really, really important and really distinct from all the other ranch workers who, when they go to work, all of their work benefits the ranch owners, who they're the ones making the money off of it, not necessarily the ranch workers. And so having their own piece of land, they would be able to benefit from their own work. There's also a sense of independence there and this really cool idea of being your own boss. And I think that's really important to them. They talk about later, or actually in this quote where it says, and when it rains in the winter, we'll just say the hell with going to work and we'll build up a fire in the stove and sit around it and listen to the rain coming down on the roof. That's important because right now they can't do that. If their ranch owner says, hey, I don't care that it's raining, you got to go to work, then they got to go to work. But that would be different with their own ranch. So I think that's really, really important.